we've had all of the reveals for FC26, and while we are waiting for the new game to come out, player ratings will start to leak and be officially revealed in the next few weeks, and then we'll get EA's top 100 rated players list for FC26. Now before that, I wanted to make my own list, just to talk about who I think should be amongst the highest rated players in the game. So I'm going to get into my list in a moment, but first, I'd really appreciate a like on the video to help the channel grow. And if you are new here, subscribe for regular videos around FC26 and other football games. And just a few things that I want to preface just before I go into this ranking. In regards to how I'm going to rate the players and the rankings themselves, I'm going to do it slightly different to what EA do. So this isn't a prediction video, this is actually my opinion on who should be rated what and who should be which number in the 100 list. What I do think is good to say first is that because this is my opinion, that means that chances are you'll probably disagree on one or two things, and that's completely fine. So no hate in the comments. If you want to debate anything or say what your opinions are, that's perfectly fine, but let's all be nice about our opinions here. So first of all, this top 100 is just male players. I didn't include female players, which EA have done recently. One, because I don't watch women's football that much to be able to rate them on how good they are. And also number two, I just don't really get rating women and men together when it's like two completely different sports. I don't think it's fair to be doing that. So that's why. And also, these ratings aren't necessarily based on what players were rated in FC25 and then if they should be upgraded or downgraded. I am just simply rating the players based on what I think they should be relative to each other. So for example, a player might have a certain rating and then I've got them to be downgraded when they might have had a decent season. What that means is probably that I thought maybe they were overrated last year. So potentially if I disagree with any FC25 ratings, I'll be probably rectifying that in this video. So don't think that I'm saying that a player should be upgraded or downgraded. I'm not really using the real FC ratings to base my opinion. This is just, again, a ranking on who should be where if I was the one making these games. And my last point before I finally get into the ranking, you're going to see me maybe alter some player ratings based on positions as well. So for example, in FC25, a lot of goalkeepers, strikers and attacking midfielders in particular have higher ratings than say fullbacks and centre backs who tend to get not so good ratings. I've tried to even out the positions as much as I can in this ranking. So if a player is the best in his position, I've boosted them a lot to be as high as I feel like I can. And on the flip side, with positions like goalkeeper, some keepers I have made a little bit lower just because I think that relative to other positions, they shouldn't be as high as what they are in FC25. So again, not an upgrade or downgrade situation. I've tried to give each position as fair as a chance as I can, really, without making it too drastically different from how EA rate their players. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. As we go through the players, I'll kind of explain my reasoning for some of them. So yeah, but without further ado, let's just get into some of my opinions here. I'm just going to quickly put on screen some of the honourable mentions that just missed out on the top 100. All of these players I would give an 84 rating to. That's the rating that we are starting on in this top 100. Now there's obviously other 84 rated players out there, but I feel like these are like the ones that would have been closest to making this list. Okay, so we're going to do 4 players at a time on each screen. So we've got 3 84 rated players here. Cody Gakpo for Liverpool, I think pretty confident with this rating. He just about makes it in the list. We've got 2 right backs from the Serie A here, Di Lorenzo and Dumfries. Di Lorenzo obviously has had a couple of good seasons at Napoli and they won the league this season as well. So I feel like 84 is valid for him. He's certainly one of, if not the best right back in the Serie A. So I think 84 is fair. Dumfries, a lot of people are hyping up after his Champions League campaign. I feel like 84 again is fair, considering when you balance out that he has had a good season, but he's been a bit hit and miss in the past. Defensively, a little bit shaky, but going forward, really good. So I think 84, again, considering his career, I think it's fair. Benzema is pretty difficult to rank, as are all the Saudi players, in my opinion, but he has had a better season this year, so I just gave him 85. I think he's 86 in FC25, so I don't know, I feel like 85 feels fair, considering he's getting on a little bit. I don't know how good he would be in Europe anymore. On to our next player, is another Saudi player, and one that I think a lot of people will be interested to know my opinion on, and that is Cristiano Ronaldo. Of course, one of the biggest names in football, so want to talk about more in this video. 85, I think is fair, to be honest, when you balance it out. I feel like he's a hard player to kind of judge these days because you have the highs of him scoring all these goals in the Saudi League and then the lows of the major tournaments for Portugal. It's kind of hard to gauge, again, players who are outside of Europe. But what I will say is going into FC25, I would have given him no higher than 85 rated just because of how bad he was at the Euros. But then he also had that really good campaign in the Saudi League. This season, he hasn't scored as many goals, but he's still been very good, obviously. And then for Portugal, he was actually decent in the Nations League. So I feel like 85 is pretty fair. When you compare him to other strikers in the world, I don't think his fans can really complain too much of that. Mamadashvili, kind of crazy that he's going to be a backup goalkeeper this year, but he's a good keeper. Nico Williams, again, I think kind of divides opinion. I think he's better for his national team than he is for the club, but he's obviously still very good for a club. A lot of the bigger sides in the world interested in him, so I think 85 is pretty fair. Even though he doesn't score that many goals, he's still a very exciting player to watch. Gyökeres, I've gotten a little bit lower than a lot of people. I'm seeing a lot of people say 86, 87 rated for him. Obviously, there's a lot of hype around Gyökeres, and I think he's 86 currently in FC25. I just think let's chill a little bit. Again, with strikers, I'm not giving them a crazy rating, even though they get all of the glory of scoring goals. Gyökeres, he's done it for 2 seasons in the Portuguese league, so I feel like 85 is kind of like where you can kind of cap his rating for now. Obviously, if he goes to Arsenal and scores tons of goals in the Premier League, then he can get a higher rating, but I think 85 is a pretty level-headed rating for him at the moment. Next up, Michael Elise. I think 84 or 85 is pretty fair for him. He's really made a step up to playing for Bayern Munich, and he's made that seamless transition into like playing for one of the top clubs in the world, so yeah, I think 85 is definitely fair. Bremer for Juventus, I think again he's 86 in FC25. I can't say I know a lot about him, that's why I've been a bit more cautious with his rating, but 85 is still a good rating to have. Konate as well for Liverpool, come off the back of a very good season, although he has looked iffy at times. Reinders, who's just gone to Man City, had an incredible debut, but I'm basing this more off the back of his season at AC Milan. You know, he's probably their best player last year. I think, yeah, 85 again is pretty fair for him, maybe 84, but definitely in that region. I think he'll be a really good player for Man City this year. Another Man City player here, Marmoush. I didn't really know what position to give him, but seeing as Haaland's going to be playing up front, I'm not going to make him a striker. I've just got him as a winger here, but he can do a job anywhere. To be fair, I'm really impressed with how he adapted to the Premier League last season. I do think with attacking players in the Bundesliga, I do take their success with a bit of caution. I think a lot of players come from that league and they can't do it in the Premier League, but he did, to be fair to him. He showed that he's a lot more than just a pacey striker who can score lots of goals in the Bundesliga. He showed more than that in the Premier League, so I think 85 is a fair rating considering his season overall. Now Gravenberch, I've got as an 85, a big upgrade for him, but when you consider he was one of the best defensive midfielders in the world last year, I think 85 is pretty fair, to be honest. The same with Cucurella, like, might be a controversial one, but when you think about it, after the Euros campaign that he had for Spain and then last year for Chelsea, how many better left backs are there than him in the world? Not many, if any. Like, I think he had a really, really underrated season last year. And 85, again, when you compare it to other defenders in the world, I think that is a more than fair rating for him. Cobalt 85, again, I'm not saying he had a terrible season or anything. I just think in the past he's been a bit overrated anyway. So I think 85 again, when you consider him against other goalkeepers, I feel like 85 is. And then his teammate Guirassy for Borussia Dortmund was scoring the goals last year in the Bundesliga. Again, I take that league with a bit of caution, considering he has been around for a few years now and he is starting to really get into his peak. So again, if he continues to score goals like he is, he might grow into a better rating. Tchouameni, I'm not 100% sure on. I think maybe I've given him a slightly high rating. Maybe I've been tricked by the Real Madrid hype. How many more better defensive midfielders are there in the world? I think when you consider that, Mahrez, can't say that I've watched the Saudi League, so I've just given him an 85. Diaz, who was at Liverpool but now gone to Bayern, I think 85 is definitely the fair rating for him. I think he'll do really well for Bayern as well. DiMarco, on the whole, had a really good campaign, kind of ruined it in the Champions League final, which has kind of stopped him from getting a higher rating than 85. But again, when you consider he's probably in the top 5 left backs in the world, I think 85 is kind of the minimum you've got to give a player who is that good in his position. And then we've got Dani Olmo, had a good season with Barcelona, 85. Bernardo Silva, 85, a bit of a downgrade from his season at Man City, but I don't want to go any lower than that because he has shown quality in the past. And I think if you put him into other leagues in the world, I still think he'd be like a top midfielder there. Now, one of the more controversial takes I think I've got in this list is Jarrod Bowen going up to an 85 rating. Now, he's currently 82 rated in FC25. This isn't me saying his season warrants him getting a +3 rating. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that Jarrod Bowen was underrated in the first place. He should have been an 84, 85 last year. When you look at his scoring stats for for not necessarily the best team in the Premier League in West Ham. He's ridiculously underrated, and people might look at him because he plays for West Ham and not think he's that good, but he would improve pretty much any team in the Premier League. And if he joined one of the top clubs, I think then people would start to rate him more. But he's just loyal to West Ham, and like I say, when you look at his stats from the last 4 or 5 years for West Ham, he 100% deserves at least an 84 rating, if not 85. He gets massively underrated by EA every single year, and yeah, I think 85 is more than valid for someone who scores and assists at the rates that he does in the hardest league in the world. Next up, Dybala. I can't say that I know too much about how he's been doing recently, but he's still putting up decent numbers in the Serie A. Again, the Serie A is not the strongest league anymore, so I've not given him any higher than that. Araujo for Barcelona, again, not too sure, but I think 85 is kind of the general consensus that everyone thinks he should get. Militao for Real Madrid was obviously doing really well, then he got that injury, so again, I think 85 is a balanced rating. Rafael Leao could have gotten an 86, but AC Milan did have a poor season, and he doesn't put up amazing numbers. I think he's just a tricky and good player to watch, so I think 85 is fair, but maybe you could argue higher. Neves for PSG had an insane season really for a midfielder. I think 85 is definitely fair. He might get slightly lower with a really good potential for career mode, but yeah, that's the rating that I'm giving him. Milinkovic-Savic, again, I'm not going too crazy on his rating because he's in the Saudi League, but he is a really good midfielder whenever I've watched him anyway. Emi Martinez, I've got a little downgrade for him. I don't think he's been that amazing this season. When you consider the World Cup was like nearly 3 years ago, I think now it's fair to say he's not in that bracket of best goalkeepers in the world, but he's certainly one of the better ones, and 85 is definitely the rating he deserves. I'm not sure where he's going to be playing his football this season at the time of recording this video, but yeah, definitely a good goalkeeper. Alphonso Davies, again, I'm not sure. He's had injury issues, but how many left backs are considered better than him in the world? Not really many, so that's why I've given him an 85 rating still. The same with Frimpong. He will be playing right back this season, but again, how many better fullbacks are there than him? Not many, and that's the logic I've used for Cancelo and Gvardiol as well. Luka Modric still getting a good rating for his age. He's gone to AC Milan, and I think he'll look really good there in the Serie A, where it's a bit of a slower league. I still think he's a quality player. David Raya, I was 50-50 with. Could have been an 85, could have been an 86. Maybe I've been a bit harsh here, but as you can see here, we are getting into the 86 rated players. So him and Wrld, I was close to upgrading a +1 overall too. Wrld, again, I think it's really underrated because he's a fullback, doesn't get an amazing rating in FC25, and partly because he's a young player, he'll have a good potential for sure in the next game. But yeah, I think he definitely deserves this rating. He's one of the best left backs in the world. Ter Stegen, I've got as an 86. He'll get downgraded for sure. He didn't play at all really this year, and the Barcelona fans don't really rate him that much anymore, it seems. Heung-min-Son again will get a downgrade, but I wouldn't go as crazy as some of the ratings I've seen people give. I still think there's quality there, albeit he is playing in the MLS, so I don't think his stock's going to be getting any higher. Carvalho 86 may be controversial, but he was injured a lot of last season, so I don't think that it's fair to downgrade him too much. Even though he's kind of going to get phased out of Real Madrid, I feel like he could go to another really good club in the world and do a really good job for them, so I've kept him at 86. Foden getting downgraded, I definitely think he's deserved. He had a really poor Euros and then a poor season. I don't think he can be any higher than the rating I've given him. Also, I didn't want to downgrade him too much because the Premier League is a difficult league, and if he went to another club in Spain or Italy or Germany, I think you'd start to see how much quality he still has. Ederson, again, another downgrade. Man City just didn't have a good year last year, and he's, at the time of recording, seemingly out of the door at Man City. I still think 86 is decent for him. Bruno Guimaraes, 85 or 86, I was torn between, but he's a really good player. Majority of top clubs in the world would happily take him in their starting 11. Frankie de Jong divides opinion. I was looking on Sophie for about what rating he should get. To see some people say 84 and then some people say 88, so I've kind of just met in the middle here. Kind of a hard player to gauge on how good he is, to be honest. Victor Osimhen, 86, I think is fair. I wouldn't give him any higher than that. There was a lot of hype around him, but he has gone to the Turkish league, so I don't think you can really judge how many goals he's scoring in that league. Ronaldo, 86, I feel like he should have had an extra rating last year, so that's kind of why I've got him as high as he is. So that's why it may seem that I'm giving him a generous rating. Again, like for players who do what he does, there aren't that many better than him in the world. Ruben Diaz, again, a small downgrade considering not the best best season really at Man City. Next up, Alvarez and Griezmann, the attacking duo for Atletico Madrid. On different trajectories, Alvarez is obviously flying up the ranks, like a lot of hype around him. Griezmann, a lot of people saying he's not had the best season, but when you look at his stats, he was still scoring and assisting plenty of goals. So I think 86 is a good rating for him. Tonali, I think, deserves his rating. One of the best at what he does in the world, really, as defensive midfielders go. I was a bit unsure about him after the whole betting thing, but this season he has really shown his quality for Newcastle. Bruno Fernandes, I think, will be at Man United for the season, and again, 86 I think is fair for him. Jonathan Tah, I think, will probably get a higher rating than this in FC26, but again, I feel like with the Bundesliga they get a little bit overrated at times. Barella, I think some would argue 87, but he didn't have the best ending to last season, so I think this is kind of like meeting in the middle here. Odegaard, I think, was 89 last year in FC26, so I don't think I'm saying he should have a -3 to his rating, but I think he was so overrated. Like 89 was ridiculous for him. He should have been 87, 88, and then based off that logic, he didn't have a great season last year, so that's why I've gotten to 86. Again, put him alongside other players in this rating, and I think it is more than fair. Caicedo for Chelsea, on the flip side, had a really good season. One of the best defensive midfielders in the world, in my opinion. Maignan, not as good this year for AC Milan. They just overall had a really poor season. So, yeah, just a little downgrade for him. Rodrigo, 86, will probably leave Real Madrid, it seems. But again, at the moment, we don't know where he's going to go. But still one of the better wingers out there, I think. Theo Hernandez, 86. I would have given him 87 last year. He didn't have the best season, and now he has gone to the Saudi League. So again, I think 86 is a good middle grade for him. Sommer for Inter Milan, just consistent. Maybe a slightly controversial one here because Lautaro Martinez will definitely get an 88 or maybe even 89 rating in FC26 by EA. I think he's overrated personally. I've never watched him and thought he's like a world-class player. I think he's definitely a very good striker, but I wouldn't have him higher than this rating. Again, I think 87, I'm completely settled on that. I don't think he deserves higher or lower than that. Kvaratskhelia, maybe I've gone a little bit too high on him, but every time I watch him, he's just a really good player to watch, and I think just so skillful. He feels like a player from like past decades who's got that bit of individual quality about him. I just really rate him, to be honest. I don't think there's many better left wingers than him in the world. And then when you consider also in terms of club football what he's done, he had the first half of his campaign for the club that won the Serie A and then moved to PSG, who won the French League and the Champions League. So when you consider that, I think 87, you know what, I think he deserves that. Isak, no idea where he's going to be playing football in a couple of weeks, but I would put him ahead of the other strikers that I've talked about in this list, the likes of Osimhen and Martinez. I think when you see the calibre of clubs that are after him, I think, yeah, he definitely deserves to be this high up on the list. Vitinha for PSG, I'm seeing like Ballon d'Or shouts from some people, so he definitely deserves the upgrade that he's gotten here. Musiala I've got as an 87, McAllister, Marquinhos. I feel like, again, these are fairly, like, they're not like crazy ratings to give out considering the season that's just gone. Alexander-Arnold at an 87 might feel generous, but again, for the position that he's playing in, there aren't many better than him at what he does, so I feel like 87, considering he's been the marquee signing for Real Madrid this year as well, I still think 87 is pretty fair on the balance. Slightly ahead of him, I've got Koundé for Barcelona. For me, the second best right back in the world, so again, deserves at least an 87 rating. I don't think that's anything crazy. One player who I'm giving a big upgrade to is Nuno Mendes. Now, he is definitely the best left back in the world, especially based off last season, and again, for me, was underrated last year. I would have given him an 84 or an 85 rating, so an 87 doesn't seem that crazy, although if you look at it as me giving him a +4 or a +5 from FC25, it might seem a bit nuts, but I think when, again, you consider he is the best left back in the world, 87 should be the minimum for a player who ranks that well against his peers. Like 88 is pretty standard, a rating that a lot of people would agree on. Another controversial one is Messi. I'm keeping it an 88. I get it if he gets a little downgrade. He is playing outside of Europe at the end of the day, but I still watch him. Maybe it's just me being nostalgic, but I still think he would do a job for the best clubs in the world with quick players around him. I still think the quality is there, but I get it if you think he should get an 87. Next up, we got the Arsenal show here with Gabriel, Saliba and Saka all at 88. Again, when you rank them against other players in their positions, they're like some of the best. So that's what we're getting to when we get to these ratings. Kimmich, again, I think standard, he's just consistent, so 88 is fine. Donnarumma, again, not sure where he's going to be playing his football, but one of the best goalkeepers in the world now, I feel. The upgrade that he's going to get is valid. He's finally living up to his potential. Cole Palmer, getting an upgrade to 88. Again, you watch this guy play, he's just a ridiculous player, really. What he's been doing in the Premier League for 2 seasons, he deserves to be one of the better players in his position. Pedri had a really good season at Barcelona, one of their key players, as they were one of the better teams in the world. So again, I think most people would agree 88 is fair. Declan Rice, I've got as a centre midfielder rather than defensive midfielder, as he pushes forward a little bit more these days, and most people will agree on his rating here. Rudiger, one of the best centre-backs in the world, so nothing to argue here. De Bruyne, not sure if I was a little bit harsh here, could have maybe still been an 89, and I think he will be very good in the Italian league, but yeah, I still think he should be up there. Yamal, 88, possibly a little high, but again, you watch him and think, how many players are better than him in the position that he plays? There aren't many at all, and I think if you take away his age, you look at him, he is one of the best players in the world, realistically. Who knows how good he's going to be in the future, whether he's going to maintain this level or improve, but I would definitely be giving him an 87 or an 88. Bastoni, one of the best centre-backs in the world, so again, deserves his rating here. Now, there is a slightly controversial rating here, but let's first of all talk about Flut and Valverde. Again, I don't feel like these are crazy ratings. Most people probably agree. Hakimi, 89. People are probably going to think that's a bit weird. But again, he is probably the best fullback in the world. And unlike Nuno Mendes, he has done it a little bit longer. And I would have been looking at an 86 or an 87 last year for him. So I feel like boosting him up to an 89. He's been one of the best fullbacks in the world for the last couple of years. And then he had an insane year last year for PSG. So for me, I don't think it's that crazy to give him an 89 when you consider him in his role. Ousmane Dembele could very likely win the Ballon d'Or, so 89 feels like a normal rating for him. I can't believe how good of a year he's had for PSG. I didn't expect him to get up to this level. We're getting into the top 10 now, but before then, Lewandowski, 89. He's maintaining his levels for Barcelona, still scoring plenty of goals for them, so I don't feel like he should be any lower than this. Jude Bellingham will 100% get at least a 90 rated card because he is the cover star of FC26, but for me, I don't think he's quite at that level, but he's still obviously a top player. Rafinha in the top 10 players in the world. I didn't think I'd be saying that a couple of years ago, but yeah, when you look at his stats for Barcelona in the second strongest league in the world, he was doing good things in the Champions League as well. He deserves it. He deserves an 89 rated. As weird as it kind of feels, he's been ridiculous the last 2 years for Barcelona. Courtois, 89 rated. We know how good he is, so nothing to say there. Vinicius Jr., 89, just misses out on that 90 rated mark because this year he wasn't quite as good as he was the previous season. Haaland, I'm giving a slight downgrade to. He obviously still scored quite a few goals last season, but other than that, wasn't contributing that much to general play. And overall, Man City just didn't have a great season. I think 89 is a fair rating for him. Kane just about gets into the 90 rated players here. He's scoring ridiculous amount of goals for Bayern Munich. I know it's the Bundesliga, but he was obviously doing it in the Premier League for Spurs for so many years. That's why I'm more than happy to give him a 90 rated card for Bayern Munich. Alisson might just miss out on getting a 90 rating in FC26, but for me, he's still the best goalkeeper in the world, therefore should be 90 rated. And finally, the best 4 players in FC26, in my opinion, should be Virgil van Dijk, the best centre-back in the world, and he has been that for a good few years. 100% deserves at least a 90 rating. And then 3 91 rated players here, Mbappe, who had a good first season for Real Madrid, and he has just been good year after year in general. Rodri, I think, deserves to hold on to his rating. He deserved to be the best rated player last year in the game after his Ballon d'Or season, and even though he's been injured this year, you've seen the drop off with Man City when he hasn't played. Even Spain haven't looked as good when they've been playing without him. Weirdly enough, even without him playing, it's actually shown how good of a player he is, and he still deserves a 91 rating for me, 100%. But the best player in the world, in my opinion, this season is Mo Salah, and I think he should win the Ballon d'Or based on his individual performances for Liverpool. Getting a 91 rating is more than fair for him, and when you consider the season Liverpool had and how important he was in that season, how many goals he scored, his assists, his general play, for me, he should be the number 1 player in FC26. But let me know in the comments who should be amongst the best players in the list, any ratings that you really disagree on, or any players that you feel like should be higher in the list or lower. Again, let's not be hateful about it or anything like that, but if you want to drop your opinions down below, feel free to. I'm interested to see what other people think. Also, what do you think about the card design? I think it looks a bit better with the badges a bit bigger behind the player. I feel like that would be a bit better. I know I'm a career mode player, but I've done it in the Ultimate Team cards because that's how EA would release the player ratings. If you're still here and you enjoyed the video, like I say at the start, please leave a like. I'd really appreciate it, and it will help the channel grow further. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, click that red button and check out all the other videos I've got on the channel. I've tried a few different types of videos recently, with this one, with the Spotify playlist, with talking about eFootball, but I will get back to primarily talking about FC26 career mode at some point, and the regular uploads will continue on this channel, so make sure you do keep in the loop of what I'm posting here. And yeah, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.